What's up, my family? Listen, first-time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Slap.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Hounds Live, exclusive on ATD Radio. Brad Ryer, Doug Minkiewicz, I'm Rob Brinkman. Live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram. Download us wherever you get your podcast, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. Each and every Monday, we're brought to you by Baguio's Breads, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and with the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. Another big football show tonight. Super Bowl set. It's funny how much parity we talk about throughout the 5 months of the regular season, and it's all the same. It's the Blue Bloods, it's the Chiefs, Mahomes, Kelsey, Taylor Swift against the San Francisco 49ers, who are no stranger to this part of the season. Real simple. We're going to do a Super Bowl preview. We're going to talk about the championship games, the performances that happened or some performances that did not happen. And the shakeup in South Philadelphia continues. Doug, we get a familiar face from Miami. Vic Fangio comes and it's going to take over the Eagles defense. And the one that I am going to push back on later on in the show is the Kellen Moore hire. Don't really like it one bit, but I am going to try and be optimistic and hope that he can fix the Eagles' offensive woes. But I'm extremely skeptical. I'm extremely skeptical of the Kellen Moore hire. Let's get to our poll question. The Kansas City Chiefs will win the Super Bowl. Agree, disagree. Let us know what you thought about Championship Sunday, the Eagles coordinator hires, and the Niners Chiefs Super Bowl matchup in 2 weeks, which sucks. I hate the bye week between the championship game and the Sunday game, but Brad, what's your early lean on this Super Bowl matchup?
I think the 49ers are going to find a way to win. You know, I think that the NFL, and I don't care if anybody, you guys can say whatever you want. I don't care. The NFL officials rigged that game yesterday to make sure the Chiefs would win. It was bullshit throughout the game. They were holding the Ravens receivers, especially in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, come on. It's so ridiculous what was going on yesterday. That was a travesty. Yeah, they almost ruined it for me to watch the 49ers and Lions because it was such a joke. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it. Taylor Swift, I just read today that because of Taylor Swift, the NFL made an additional $330 million. Okay? So let's stop with this crap that, Lamar choked, blah, 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 blah. The officials were not going to let Kansas City lose the game, okay? There's too much money to be made, and the NFL made sure that the officials were not going to call anything against Kansas City, okay? And you know what? I can go back to the Super Bowl last year because, quite frankly, I am sick and tired of the bullshit that's been going on with Kansas City and the officials helping them out. It started with Bradbury last year. It went on all season this year. And in the playoffs, it's just been completely ridiculous, completely. And I've had it with this stuff. You know what? They're not going to be able to do that in the Super Bowl because you know what? They're going to get their ratings now because they got Swiftie on, so she'll be on. All her piglets will be watching. Will be watching the Super Bowl now, just like they
watching Mr. Pfizer.
Yeah, right. The pig and her piglets will all be on. We'll be watching the game every time every time Travis catches a pass. Oh, we got to see her. You know what? It's as nauseating as watching Jerry Jones with the Cowboys. You know, there are two people now in the NFL that make me throw up: Taylor Swift and Jerry Jones. Okay? I don't want to see their ugly faces during football games. Just let me watch the damn games. You know, if you're going to show me a girl, show me a cheerleader. Okay? I don't want to see Taylor Swift. Or Jerry Jones.
She's a cheerleader. Huh? She's cheering on her boo.
So you know what? They're probably a lot better looking girls who who are married to football players who we could watch instead of her. Who
I
cares?
don't know. Have you seen Taylor Swift?
They don't have $2 billion. They don't have $2 billion in the bank.
No, they don't.
That helps.
So
Maybe
now,
more.
Doug,
I'd be
the
attracted
NFL
with $2 billion.
Did the NFL force the Ravens to throw the football 82% of the time yesterday?
You're not gonna get it. It's the same old, same old. It's the Ravens are the Cowboys of the AFC. They get to the point and they just shit all over themselves. It's the same stuff. Like they praise Lamar and hell of an athlete, great quarterback, but when push comes to shove, he just doesn't do it. I don't care for what they did to the 49ers not less than 3 weeks ago, a month ago. Yesterday's game should not have been close. I don't care if they're holding at all. Like, they didn't play well at all. So, I mean, I can't, like, it's almost like you watch a Cowboy playoff game, they might win one, they might win a half, but you know that train's never late. Like, Dak's going to put up 400 yards and going to be down 28 points, and they're just meaningless. Just like the Ravens. The Ravens, I mean, I'm sorry. You lose an AFC Championship game at home to an offense that's really not that good anymore. Like, I don't care what they're calling. That's embarrassing. They should have put 50 on them. They really should have. And, like,
They couldn't run.
That
They
has
didn't
nothing to do
run.
with.
They didn't
They
try.
didn't run. They didn't try.
They
Like,
did
even-
try. They couldn't. They couldn't. The only one who could run a little bit was Lamar. The rest of the guys weren't.
Bro, their
you
running
have
backs
2
had
weeks
7
off.
carries. Their running backs had 7 carries yesterday.
Like
Well,
7.
they also got behind early too. That's
They
that
weren't.
had
They
a lot.
weren't
17-10?
down. They weren't down 3 scores. They were down. Like, they had the whole half to go, and they were down 2 scores. Like, that's nothing. Like, they played like garbage. So it's like, and like Harbaugh even said, come out of the break, come out of the halftime. It's like, we got to establish a run. We got to run. Well, you're not going to do it automatically doing it on first down every time. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, you gave it like the college try. Like, okay, Lamar, go run around and beat some people. Well, it's like, again, like when like there's championship MOs, there's like chromosomes that guys have in them. Lamar Jackson, they don't have it. They don't have it. Every time they play a game that matters, they play small. They can't figure it out. Like, that's like the prediction of the Super Bowl is like the 49ers should absolutely curb stomp the Chiefs. I mean, legitimately should curb stomp them. But you have the NFL officials, Patrick Mahomes. It's just, I mean, like, and he has the world at every beck and call. Like, if you even sneeze on him in the playoffs, it's a penalty. So kudos to him. He's earned that right to be that guy. But at the same token, it's like, if you would have told me 6 weeks ago the Chiefs would be in the Super Bowl, I'd be like, you're crazy. Out of all the firepower in the AFC, there's no way you would have thought. Like, yeah, you would have said, like, oh, Patrick Mahomes, you never know. But if you were to put your life savings on it, no one would have put the money on the Chiefs.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, two things happened. First off, the Ravens just totally ignored everything that got them there. They were a bully team. They ran the ball.
Everything they did.
Everything they used to get to the AFC Championship game just went out the window. And I can't really point a finger at the defense because they let up 17 points at home.
17 points in today's NFL is a really good job by the defense, in my opinion. You keep the other team at home on like 17 points, you should score 4 times. It's the NFL. You can't. I mean, like I said, it's an offensive-minded league. You have Lamar Jackson. You tell me you can't score. If you had told me at the beginning of the game that the Chiefs would score 17 points, I'd been like, Baltimore wins 39-17 or 40-something 7, right? You wouldn't think like, oh my gosh, they kept them to 10 points. I don't care what they're calling. 10 points is an embarrassment. I don't care what the conditions were. I mean, shit, Tua threw a touchdown pass in the damn snow. Like that, there's UPS drivers that could throw a touchdown in the snow. No disrespect. It's a figure of speech.
There are. I'm
But
not.
that's the truth.
I'm not one of them.
But
I'm
I
not
am
one
saying,
of them. But
but
we
I'm
have
just saying,
people.
like,
we have athletes in the building that could probably do that.
I
Yes.
guarantee you do. 100%. That's my point. Like, you put up as many touchdowns as Tua did, and that's embarrassing. That's terrible.
And then the Ravens got bullied. The Ravens have been this bully team the entire season, and the Chiefs said, "Okay, you want to be the bully? Guess what? We're moving Tucker's warm-up stuff. We're getting in your face. We're getting in your face at the coin toss. We're getting in your face after every play. You know, we're getting in your face, and we're running the football, and we're going to bully the bully." And it worked. And the Ravens had no answers.
You said it perfectly.
It was baffling.
They did nothing that got them there. And there's something to be said about, I'm all for a wrinkle here, a wrinkle there, a series where you switch stuff up, but you have to stick with your laurel. You have to stick with who you are. More coaches should get fired for changing what they do than sticking with what has worked and it didn't work. You can go home and look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what? They beat us, but I'm going to stick to my strength. I don't care what you do. We're sticking to our strength. They didn't do that, and that's why they're at home. And they do it every damn year. Like every year they're good. Something goes awry. Lamar Jackson. It's terrible.
I just had a comment up here. Hold on. Zay fumble. Where was it? Like, this Lamar is different than the last two times he was in the playoffs. Like,
how's that?
How?
He won one game? I mean, like, let's be honest, he beat the Texans. Like, let's not get carried away here. They didn't beat a juggernaut.
No.
They beat an up-and-coming young team, which, don't get me wrong, they won a playoff game. I understand that. But it's the same old thing. Like, he's Tony Romo East. It's just, I mean, that's the reality. Dak Prescott East. It's like they put up numbers, but numbers don't mean crap in January. They don't mean anything. Like, I can't, like, I wouldn't say choke, but he just doesn't do what he always does throughout the course of the year then. Like, I don't know if he puts too much pressure on himself or if they try to, like, flip the game plan and be like, okay, guess what? We've had this formula for 18, 19 games. Psst, we're going to throw it 82% of the time today in the rain. Go get them, guys. Like, what? I mean, come on. Like, why? That game and conditions were tailor-made for them. Get up there, line up, bully them, run the ball 90 times. You can, I mean, hell, run the quarterback draw 25 times.
Well, they should have run right at Chris Jones. That's
the entire game.
If I was going to run, I'd run right at him because then you negate his quickness. Yeah, because you negate his quickness.
I was floored. I was like, okay, here they come. Right? They started slow against the Texans. Okay, they're going to get it in gear. They're going to make some adjustments, figure it out, and here they come. And it was like, they're doing the same damn thing they're doing again. Like, I don't get it. It's monsooning, and you just refuse to just run the ball. You just refuse to do it.
Their fans have every right to be questioning what's going on there with everything. That's a really bad loss. You're favored by 4.5 at home. You're a way better team, and not only do you lose, you just lay a complete egg on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you got to be playing defense with the Baltimore Ravens, saying like, okay, like this Patrick Mahomes guy, he's like the next Tom Brady, the next GOAT, the heir apparent. Like we hold him to 2 touchdowns,
right?
And our MVP can't get it done. I get it. And then that pick in the end of the 30-yard bomb he threw right into triple coverage, and then Zay Flowers fumbles on the goal line. Rookie mistake. Just really bad
of the day,
loss. I mean,
even if Zay Flowers keeps holding on to the ball, it's still only 2 touchdowns. at home in the AFC Championship game. Like that's at the end of the day, like you're at home. You're not. These defenses aren't the '85 Bears. They're not the 2000 Ravens. They're not like complete like punch them in the mouth. I can shut you out at any given time. Offenses today score points. They've made every rule possible for the NFL to be 34-31 games. And you couldn't muster up but one damn touchdown. Like that's just like you don't deserve to go play for it when you do that at home. You don't. And that's why they're at home.
Yeah. Brad, it reminded me in 2003, the Philadelphia Eagles were home favorites in the NFC Championship game, and the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, the Panthers.
No, the year after the Tampa Bay game, because Tampa Bay actually like had a good team. They had a lot of Hall of Famers on that defense. The Panthers were just like a bunch of journeymen stuck together with spit and glue. And Donovan McNabb and the Philadelphia Eagles, they lost 14-3. Ricky Manning Jr.
Dan Morgan and all those guys.
Dan Morgan was on that team. Yeah, Ricky Manning Jr. had 3 interceptions because they just took Todd Pinkston and threw him off the line of scrimmage every game. Didn't hear from Ricky Manning Jr. before that game. Haven't heard from him after that game, but he had 3 interceptions in the 2003 NFC Championship game against my Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles lost. It was one of the worst losses in Philadelphia sports history. I got to think Baltimore's feeling that way today. I mean, look at who's left. Look at who's left.
The only thing that saves them is the name of the quarterback of the team they lost to. That's it.
Yeah. Everybody talks about Josh Allen being a choke. Josh Allen puts up 24 points against them all the time. He always puts up enough points to win. Yet he gets criticized all the time. I think Josh Allen plays hell of a lot better against everybody in the playoffs than Lamar does.
I agree with that. 1,000%.
Josh Allen got them in field goal range to tie up the game, and the kicker blew the field goal. And yet everybody calls
he just doesn't do anything. Like Josh Allen does something memorable, right? It's like a Brett Favre syndrome, right? You remember the amazing touchdown pass he throws. You also remember the really bad picks he throws. You know what I mean? Like that's Brett Favre. Like
yeah. He didn't throw any picks in that game against Kansas City, though.
I'm just saying, like, Lamar is just like, he's just blah in games that matter. I mean by blah, it's just like, there's no, like, memorable, like, you have, like, there were a lot of chances in that game to where you could, like, you punt them deep, they go 3 and out, you get the ball at midfield, okay, take over. It's like, all right, okay, now it's the fourth quarter. It's like, are you ever going to do it? Like Josh Allen, good or bad, he's going to make a difference one way or the other. It's memorable, right? It doesn't matter to be like Dan Marino. Like those guys, like I want it on my shoulders. I'm not going to come through every time, but in my head I am. And I'm going to make amazing throws to bring us back. And I'm probably going to make some head scratchers where you're going to be like, why would you throw that? But at the end of the day, you want the ball in his hands. To me, he plays those games so like not wanting to screw up. And he's just another guy in those games. And you can't survive. That team can't survive with him being just, another guy. He can't be Trent Dilfer of the 2000 Ravens. He can't be Joe Flacco. He's got to be the difference maker he was for 19 games, and he just doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is it like a mental? Is it a mental?
It has
thing
to be.
Athletes
it has to be.
Dak and Lamar and.
I've never understood it, just because, I had really bad playoff games. I've had really good playoff games. It wasn't because the situation dictated it. I was like, I got amped up for games in April the same way I got amped up for playoff games. So it's like the game mattered to me. I think when you start to try to, and that's what's like so crazy about it. Like, yeah, if the thought crossed my head in the playoffs when I played for the Red Sox or when I played for the Yankees or when I played even for the Twins, it's like, if I take one good swing, it's going to be in the record books for the rest of the history books, right? Like, and for guys like me who didn't put up crazy numbers and weren't the best of the best, like, that's memorable. So, like, I get it. But at the same token, it's like these great players, like, what are you doing? Like the A-Rods of the world, like Lamar Jackson. Like, you guys are the best of the best. Why can't you just be you when we need you to just be you? Be 80% of you. And that's all we need. And but yet it's that mentality where they put so much pressure on themselves to be the guy that it crumbles. And that's what's so alarming. That's that's the wonderful thing about sports psychiatry and sports psychology is because why? You can't just you're just one of us. Don't be the guy, be one of the guys, and it'll be good enough because your talent is that much better than everybody else's.
I was rooting for Lamar to get it together and shake this.
You just don't want you don't want
stench that he has on.
You don't ever want to see a player get labeled with that crap because it's at the end of the day, it's he's won a ton of games. It's just sometimes you get snake bitten where stuff doesn't work out. It's just, and then the media takes it and runs with it, right? Because all of a sudden now it's every year mounts where Dak is, right? Tony Romo got a pass because Dak is so bad at it. Because now they got another one. They forgot about Tony Romo and he couldn't even hold the extra point snap. So it's now he's making $15 million on freaking ABC or wherever the hell he's at, CBS. But people Dak being so bad, they've forgotten how bad Tony Romo was. You know what I'm saying? So it's you just don't want to see I don't understand you want to grab them as the coach in me wants to grab will you take a deep breath and just go sling the shit out of it and play with your balls out? Because when you do that, like a Josh Allen, yes, you get some mind-scratching. I swear, when they try to harness these guys, bad stuff happens. You try to tell them don't make mistakes and blah, 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 and then all of a sudden they question themselves, and then that's when the interceptions happen. If I had Josh Allen, I'd be like, dude, go back, bring the crap out of it. Because I know if you throw an interception in the end zone, there's probably going to be 3 that end up in our hands. We win 21-7. And when you put doubt in those guys' minds, you think Mike Holmgren always loved the fact that Brett Favre did the crazy shit he did, but they just let him go. You try to coach that, you're making him mortal.
But his creativity, Brett Favre's creativity was unbelievable though.
Josh Allen's is too. So is Lamar Jackson's. Don't coach them into being mortal. Coach them into letting them be immortal. Go do your thing. Go, I don't care what you do. Just get it done. Go be crazy. Yeah, you're going to have to bite your tongue when you're man, that throw was really stupid. I really didn't agree with that. But yet, you can't judge a player for how easy he makes something look when it does right and then crucify him when he does the same thing when it goes wrong. You can't have it both ways. You got to accept the good with the bad. Be the positive outweighs the negative.
Yeah, what do you do about it, though?
Coach them up, and you know what? The great ones have a feel, I think, of okay, in a football sense, they need me to cut it loose here. I gotta take chances. We need a spark. We got to get back into this thing. A couple scores. Let's go. And then when you have a 14-point lead, you're all right, have enough wherewithal to be that throw doesn't make sense. But that's why there's only so many plaques in Canton, because the great ones have that knack of being don't get me wrong. There's guys in the Hall of Fame that made really bad throws at certain times, but they didn't make the great ones. They limit their critical ones. I mean, if you think back to John Elway, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, you look at their interceptions. How many of those interceptions you go into it that number wise of when their team was down and they had to press the envelope. They had to push the envelope. Right? Those interceptions are forced, but they're not really interceptions. They're you're a minute left, you're down 8 or 9, and you can't back when they didn't have a 2-point conversion, you have to force the ball. Those really aren't picks. They're just there's no other option besides pressing the ball down the field.
You gotta force it.
And hey, that's why I don't get wrapped up in interceptions and errors in baseball, because you can make a hell of a play and make an error. You can stand in one spot and not make a ton of them because you're not doing anything. You're just avoiding the ball. So But I just really feel like if you watch all his playoff games he's lost, he doesn't look – Lamar Jackson does not look anything close to what he did during the regular season.
He just doesn't look comfortable. It's
at all.
Weird.
And there's 50 coaches on the sideline. Hasn't anyone brought this up to him? Be like, this is what you look like. And you know what I mean? Like, you find stuff out like that. They have film on everything now. Like, what is it? Talk to them. Hey, what do you feel? Okay, go through it. Your job to put them through that in practice as best you can. You can't simulate it. You can get close, but you make them aware so they understand and they talk about it. And every time an athlete, I feel like when they start to talk about it, they're letting themselves out. They're letting their guard down. They're understanding, like, okay, you're right. It makes sense. Okay, I got it. I just, and then the more they talk, the less pressure they feel, the less heat they feel to do everything, and then great things happen. You just don't get there. I almost felt better about them being down a couple scores because you're like, all right, here comes the backyard guy, right? The guy that's just running around, slinging it to everybody, getting the hurry up. How many times you hear the guys on TV like, oh, go to the no huddle? It gets guys in rhythm. And you start, if there's one guy you would think to run a 2-minute drill in today's football, Lamar Jackson's either 1 or 1A. He can run for a first down. He can exploit you for 40 yards on his feet. He can sling it in the air. I'm like, get him going somehow, some way. That goes back to coaching.
So you think Harbaugh is a problem?
I don't think he's a problem. I think anybody that's been there that long and had that much success, obviously, because I feel like he's one of the better ones in the NFL because he has adapted. I mean, he went from, he had a great defense, and then he's got Lamar Jackson. So they've always been, and that team, no matter how many injuries they have, they're always good, right? You don't ever hear excuses come out of that.
But this time they were healthy. They were really
healthy, which is what's more mind blowing. Where last year everybody was hurt, and they still were dangerous. So I mean, I don't know. It didn't look like the team. It didn't look anything like the team that put 50 whatever on the Dolphins. It looked nothing like them on both sides of the ball.
What did they do? The Ravens didn't make the playoffs last year, right? Do I have that right?
No, they did make the playoffs. That was the disaster. That was a disaster with when the backup quarterback did the quarterback sneak at the 1 yard line and then tried to push the ball over, and Cincinnati knocked it away and got a touchdown.
Yeah, Lamar didn't play.
Yeah.
Right, he was
and
hurt.
then that's right. That's right, and he wouldn't play. And then every team in the league could have had contract negotiations with Lamar Jackson in the offseason, and everybody passed. And he wound up back in Baltimore.
I was one that was cheering for him to come to South Florida.
I mean, he's better than Tua. That's for sure.
I'm just telling you, you put that dude with Tyreek Hill, and that's scary.
Yeah. Well, Tyreek Hill is just a completely different human being than every other.
You put that dude behind
Yeah.
center of that group.
Yeah.
That's frightening. We still would lose the first round of the playoffs, but we're doing hell of a regular season.
Now Brock Purdy, he raised his level of play yesterday.
Let's get to some comments, and we'll talk about the NFC game. Evening, gentlemen. I agree with the poll. The Chiefs play mistake-free. Niners are lucky to even be here. I certainly agree with the Niners are lucky to even be here. That's why I really like the Chiefs are going to win. It's just going to be one of those franchises. It doesn't matter what goes on in the regular season, what coordinators leave, what players leave, as long as they have Mahomes and Andy, they're going to be right there. So I like the Chiefs over the Niners.
The only thing that scares me is that the repeat thing. The repeat thing is real. The repeat thing's real.
Mike Hayes, the postseason was rigged. Higher ups in the league and refs needed a new culture for football. Get the whole heads out of the business. I mean, but they didn't get – there's nothing new about this Super Bowl matchup. It's the Niners and the Chiefs. It happened a couple years ago. Both these teams are always in the mix. So if you really wanted it to be rigged and get, the new kid in town, then, the fix should have been in for the Lions, right? But
they had it. They legitimately had it.
Just-
They legitimately had it.
They
The
blew that game.
Lions. Those poor people in Detroit. And honestly, guys,
They're
I don't have a
young though.
problem
They'll be
with-
back. That team's gonna be around for a while. Unless they get
do
hurt.
we have a problem with Dan Campbell today with his gambles
Yes.
on fourth down? Because
Yes.
I for one do not. I have a
I
problem
don't.
with the one that was with 7 minutes to go. I thought they should have maybe tried a field goal to tie the football game up. But Brad, you
Brad
didn't
does.
like it.
Brad didn't
No,
like it.
there was when it was 24-10. I think they had a chance to kick a field goal and go back up 27-10. And they didn't do it. They went for it again. And the 49ers stopped them. That was when they went for it and they got stopped. I just don't understand. You'd make it a 3-score game again. Instead, you keep going for it. You don't make it. And when you don't make it, it's a momentum shift. And in playoff games, you don't want to do that, especially when you're on the road. It's different when you're at home because for whatever reason, all teams seem to play better at home. And they get the fans into it. The adrenaline kicks in, and it seems like you're going to get other opportunities. But when you do stuff like that on the road, all you're doing is getting the fans back involved again, and they basically opened the door. And when it was 20, when the Niners only got a field goal, and they changed the score from 24-7 to 24-10. I wasn't thinking that much of it, but you know what? When they went for it again, and instead of just kicking a field goal, going back up by 3 scores again, no, they got to go for another touchdown because Dan Campbell had to have a 21-point lead. He just had to have it. Sometimes a 17-point lead is just as good as a 21-point lead because it's still 3 scores. And that was my problem with him. And also, look, I don't even mind going for it when it was when as you talked about, when there were 7 minutes to go. Okay, that would have been a 48-yard field goal. The weather wasn't very good, and I can understand them not wanting to take a chance kicking a 48-yard field goal and giving the 49ers the ball at the 38-yard line. I get that. That's okay. Okay, but all the other times, I mean, heck, he was ready to go for it before halftime. I mean, he literally had to catch himself and kick the field goal. He had those guys out there ready to go for it, and at the last second he changed his mind. I mean, sometimes you have to be smart. I get it. He's aggressive, and that's just the way he coaches. But sometimes you have to look at the situation and understand there are times to do it and times to hold back, and he should have done that. And also, what the heck were they doing with Brock Purdy? They turned Brock Purdy into Lamar Jackson, their defense. I mean, you think after the first or second time that Purdy got out there to run that they would at least put a spy on him. But no, they just kept letting him run and letting him run and letting him run.
I have no problem with
the turnover.
I have no problem.
I don't really either. I mean, that Reynolds guy, what did he have? 2 drops? 2 big drops? Yeah. And then what? The Niners made it 24-17. The Lions got the ball back, and they tried to run the ball with Gibbs on the first play. They had the ball, and he fumbled.
Right, and then McCaffrey. That was when McCaffrey took it in.
Poor execution.
Correct.
And mistakes and turnovers led to the Detroit Lions' downfall.
And that's what everybody wants to talk about, the coaches about the fourth down call. And it's like, well, if you're going for it on fourth down, you honestly don't really think about it as like, well, if I don't make it, you don't have that mentality. You're thinking,
yeah, but
all right.
You have to at least think about what the score is and what the situation is.
Well, but I want to play for a guy that wants to go for the kill in the third quarter. Like, you have them going, kill them. You go up 21 points. It's over.
I agree.
And again,
I agree. But what's wrong with being up 17 instead?
It's not 21.
But it's still 3 scores.
It's 3 scores, but a field goal is way different. Like, again, people are just assume the field goal is going to be automatic, and it's not. And it's like I would have zero problem with a coach that wanted to go, hey, that's it. But at the end of the day, I didn't watch a lot of Lions games, and I can probably speak for both of you. You guys didn't either.
No,
It's a matter of
really.
like, there's something to be said. We just crucified the Ravens for changing what they did the whole year in the AFC Championship game. If Dan Campbell's gone for it aggressively from the first game of the season on, you can't fault him for being that way. And the game doesn't matter. The game is another game. I know it. Again, it's an NFC Championship game, and you're supposed to be different. But like, that's how you get fired, and that's how you lose the respect of your players. Is if you go into a game like that and you change what you've done all year. And like, you know what? I know. I guarantee you, there's not one player on the team that was like, yeah, man, like going for it on fourth down really cost us that game. Like
no,
they love that.
They
love that. And I think it was
they
that.
Wouldn't think that.
And it's that mentality that changed the whole aura of that organization. Like they've always been they've been beat up for 3 decades. And it's like it took someone that's going to be like, hey, we're going for it, and I'll tell you we're going for it, and we're going to run this, and we're going to run it. We're going to run it right here, and we're going to execute, and we're going to get it done. And I think it takes a guy like that to get to flip the script on that whole entire franchise. It's unfortunate, but again, and the fourth down calls to me, yeah, did they not work? Yes, but I don't fault him for going for it, and that did not lose him. It didn't help him, but it didn't lose him the game.
Metal Mike, who got screwed worse, Detroit or Green Bay in the playoffs? I mean, both teams screwed themselves with poor execution. Green Bay should have beat San Francisco 2 weeks ago. This is where I think people get, and Metal Mike, you listen.
Baltimore got screwed worse than those two.
Baltimore got screwed, yeah.
I think Baltimore got screwed worse than those two.
But Detroit beat themselves in the second half. I mean,
their inexperience showed what they were showed.
Yeah,
it came out.
Yeah, they started dropping passes, which they didn't do. When as soon as San Francisco put some pressure on them, they started dropping passes. They started fumbling, and it wasn't Goff, because I thought Goff played a great game.
He's been there before, right? He's done it before. There's
has.
something to be said about when young teams. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago with you asked me about the Anaheim Angels series against the Twins. We win game 1 in the 2002 ALCS, and for the first time in my life, we were thinking, holy shit, we're going to win the whole thing. And then we got boat race 4 games in a row against Anaheim. You can't tell me you're up 17 at half. Young guys weren't already making like reservations to go to the Super Bowl. And like, I'm not saying that they didn't, like they lost complete focus, but in those games, you take your foot off the accelerator just a split second, and those bad things happen. You forget fundamentals, and that's what happens.
You also forget how good San Francisco is.
Right. But, I mean, they were, if they
were killing them in the first half.
If they just protect the ball, they're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the fumble, I think the fumble was the absolute killer.
Was the neck breaker.
Yeah. That is once they did that, and then San Francisco went boom, boom, touchdown, tie game. You knew that was it for Detroit. There was no way they were going to win that game. When the game's tied going into the fourth, they didn't even have to go into the fourth quarter to try to tie it up. They already tied it up in the third quarter. Once that happened, you knew that there was no way Detroit was going to beat them.
Yeah, it was trouble. It was trouble. Once the game got tied, that was trouble.
Got to give.
But that's where I thought. Okay, we'll see what this Detroit team is really made of right here. We'll see if they can regroup. If they can regroup and put, 2 drives together, 10 minutes of football together, and see what happens.
Yeah, but their defense couldn't stop the 49ers. The Niners started running the ball effectively, and they wore down that defense. And basically, at that last drive when they just marched right down the field at 27-24, and then got the 10-point lead. I mean, that was 49er football, and there was no way Detroit was going to stop them. They just decided, okay, now we're going to run the ball. And, Purdy, his passes don't look very pretty. It kind of looks like is it me, or does he look like he's always throwing slow balls?
He throws changeups.
Yeah, he's Nick Foles.
Yeah,
Nick Foles
didn't
has
have
a cannon. Has a cannon compared to the guy I have to
No,
watch in South Florida.
yeah.
Trust me.
I mean,
well, in South Florida, okay, but I mean, Nick Foles would always just know
Purdy's
he would
passes
never
are
do
like.
the
You can
fast.
throw an 8-pound medicine ball harder than Tua can throw a football. Let's just get that out in the open.
I think the same thing goes for Purdy too. It looks
this
like the
guy's
ball is always
coming off a
floating.
bad elbow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Tua's hasn't had an arm problem yet. That's the scary part.
One thing I got to tell you about him, he kind of raises his level in a big spot, and you got to give him credit for that, because not every quarterback can do that.
No doubt. We just talked about it. Like some of the great ones have it, some of the great ones don't have it, but some of the other guys do.
I mean, he's an average quarterback most of the time, but when you really need him to make a play, he always seems to be able to do it. And you know what? Good for him. I know he's got a great supporting cast for sure. He does. Okay, and I don't think he can drive a Volkswagen, but he can definitely drive the Cadillac, and he's driven the Cadillac right to the Super Bowl again.
And maybe that played into Dan Campbell's thought too about the fourth down call. It's like, yeah, the 3 points are great, but we need to shrink this game too. Like if we can hold the ball another couple minutes and put points up later on, that deters them from running their regular offense. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Okay, that makes sense.
You take the crowd out of it. I get it. Yeah, you run the risk of bringing them right back into it. But if you hold the ball for another 2 minutes, minute and a half, maybe 3, and you get the chance to, like, defense getting tired. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that, which, like I said, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I just feel bad for him that it didn't work out, because I was really hoping that we'd get a chance to see the Lions in the Super Bowl.
No, I think they may end up getting there at some point.
The Lions fans, it's disappointing they lost and they kind of had it and blew it. But I'm feeling good about my future if I'm a Lions fan, as opposed to Baltimore, who just laid a complete egg. And it's kind of like same year, different story with Lamar. Yeah,
I think
Whereas
some Detroit fans are like this is our best shot, and I get that. And that doesn't mean they feel better because they had a good ride, but you're right. Baltimore's got to be like what do we have to do? Like what is it? Like we're stuck.
How did we not win this year?
Right.
Especially after what they did to San Francisco a couple of weeks ago.
They demolished San Fran.
Yes, they
demolished them.
Yes, they did. I mean, the
Chiefs'
shocked.
defense get enough credit, because it feels like every year they make a Super Bowl run, their defense.
Hey, it's Spagnuolo, great coaching.
Spagnuolo is
a great defensive coach.
Those defenses get better and better and better, and they're around the ball. He blitzes like at the greatest times every game. Like every game that matters, there's a blitz mixed in there that you're like, damn, that was important. They got him off the field, and it's just they're everywhere.
And they disguise it so well.
Oh my gosh, it's like they're coming. They had chances to sack Lamar, and he got away from it. But it's still the initial damage was done. It's like this guy's got a crystal ball, because he just come January, man, he's a genius.
Listen, you know what? In 2007. He was the defensive coordinator when the Giants went and beat the Patriots. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And if you remember that season, the last regular season game, the Giants played the Patriots, and the Patriots put 38 points up on the Giants. You know what? I think they beat them. The Patriots beat the Giants 38-35 that game. Giants gave him a hell of a battle, but you know what? He took notes and he figured out what to do to keep the Patriots from scoring a zillion points against the Giants that game in the Super Bowl. And you know what? That guy just knows what to do. When he had the Giants, he had a bunch of defensive ends on the defensive line, and they just used their speed. All of them were fast, and they just used their speed to get to the quarterback, and it worked. It just seems like his defense.
He finds a way with what he has to scheme you up.
He makes their defense, the defense, like a track meet. They're so quick to the ball, and that guy Jones is tremendous. Boy,
yeah, he's ridiculous.
He's
well, that's one of the reasons is you put a bow on. That's why Steve Spagnuolo is going to figure out what Brock Purdy can't do, and that's going to be the X factor in the game. I like the Chiefs. Apparently,
I don't care about the game either way, but I want to watch the Chiefs defense against that offense, right? Offensive-minded Niners versus like head coach, I should say. I wouldn't say, but like their head coach is an offensive guy, and you have this guy. It's going to be like that's a dangerous combination. The Chiefs, like everybody talks about Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, but it's like you have Andy Reid and that dude, like as your offensive coordinator. Don't forget they lost the enemy too. They're still back to where they were the year before. So that's crazy.
Hey, they just find a way.
They bought back.
You know what's next season? Next season, they're going to get themselves a better wide receiving core.
Said that last year too, and they're right back at the Super Bowl.
Rashee Rice is emerging.
Rice is pretty. I mean, no, he's good, but I bet you they get another guy. I wouldn't be surprised.
Scantling finally caught the freaking ball on that bomb with 2.5 minutes left on third down. They finally threw it to him, and he finally caught it. And and nobody cares that he dropped the ball against the Eagles or all those other times now because he caught that one.
I hope Stephon Diggs was watching.
Well, and then I guess the AFC is just going to be, as if Mahomes is active and healthy, like he's just not going to get beat.
Correct.
I still maintain that
he may lose a couple of times over the next 5 years. He may lose a couple of times.
Allen might slip one past the goalie. So
I think he's the only one
did with Brady.
I think he's the only one that could really do it.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you at this point. Burrow was hurt this year. He did it.
Burrow did. Yeah, Burrow did it. I forgot about Burrow. Yes, that's fair. That's a fair comment.
But like Lamar, he's not beating Mahomes in a big spot.
No,
it's just not. It's not happening.
And Mahomes
who else is there?
Another
Herbert
one.
And the Chargers.
He's great, and then he gets even better when he has to.
By the way, what do we think about Mr. John Harbaugh re-entering the NFL with the Los Angeles Chargers?
I don't get it. I don't get the hype.
Jim Harbaugh. What did I say, John?
Yes.
Whatever.
Jim. Whatever.
We know where
John
you're
Harbaugh.
talking about.
Michigan. John Harbaugh.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't.
I do.
Understand the craze. I don't understand. I don't get it.
He wants to be the first coach to win a national championship and a Super Bowl.
I get it. I get that part of it. I don't understand what am I missing? What am I not seeing? That I just don't I don't see the hype. I don't see the I don't know. It took them forever to get Michigan relevant, and Michigan won no offense, they won a crippled year. They didn't beat.
It was a down year for college football, and he took
advantage
of it. But
I still think the Michigan's the third or fourth best team in the country.
I don't disagree with you, but they won. They're the first team ever to be 15-0, if I'm not mistaken. He beats Ohio State every year.
Yeah, they play 13 high school teams.
I get it, but
12.
But
who's
time that
12?
He left.
But who's counting?
Yeah, I know. There's 14 teams in the Big 10 and 10 teams in the Big 12. It makes no sense.
And 13 of them
are crazy.
12 of them are garbage. But I don't get the hype. I don't get why the Dolphins were after him. It's like every year. It's like there's just the substance to me is not worth the drama you get with him. Like he's weird. It's like he
is weird.
Why is he getting so weird? What you look at him now and look at him as a player. I get it. It's a 30-year window, but he seemed like the no nonsense, no bullshit, sling it ball player, living on every ounce of talent he had. He didn't have a ton of it, but he willed his way to win games. And you look at him on the sideline now, it's you look like a school shooter. You know what I mean? You just look weird. He looks different, right? He just looks like he's something about it. It makes him look eerie. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it just I don't see. I guess I don't know enough about football to understand what he really brings that is changing. Michigan's always been relevant, right? They're relevant. They weren't the best before he got there, and now they brought him back.
Right.
But it wasn't like Michigan was far away from being like, a decade of being mediocre for Michigan, or a top 10 team isn't good enough for Michigan. But they still were a top 10 ball club. They were still a program that was they're a blue blood, right? They didn't get over the hump, but they were always in the mix, right? Like, yes, he took the Niners to the Super Bowl, but then like disappeared. Like, why did he run away from it in the first place?
I don't remember because I don't remember him getting fired because they were always good.
I get that. But like, if you're going to go back, if you're going to leave the NFL to coach your alma mater, you stay there until you're 80. Why would you?
Do you think he got?
Like, he could have been the coach till he was 106.
Yeah.
Maybe he was afraid that some of the guys would be put on probation.
The only thing that I can see is that why would anyone outside of obviously the financially, it goes without saying, but like, being a college coach, there's a lot, right? Those guys are grinding 363 days a year. Whereas in pro football, you get a couple months off. You're still doing the meetings and all that stuff, but it's not to the same degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, that makes sense to me, but I just don't understand, like, why leave the NFL to go to college, bring your alma mater back to where he thinks it, or if I was my alma mater, that's where I want it to be, at the top. And then just like, he could have wrote his own meal ticket for the next 25 years.
Right.
He might get fired in 2 with the Chargers.
Right. Because he didn't get along with the San Francisco GM. That's why he left, if my memory serves me correct.
He never does. That's the same thing. Have you ever noticed, like, everywhere he goes, Stanford, they had a problem with that. Took longer, right? Took a little longer, but there was beef coming out of there. Goes to San Fran, problem with the GM. Goes to Michigan, gets suspended 6 of the 15 games, right? Like, there's an issue with him everywhere he goes. And I would think alma mater, who you just won a national championship for, is going to have your back, and you have longer longevity. Granted, he's made enough money, don't get me wrong, in the stints he's had to live the rest of his life comfortably, obviously. But I get the whole draw of being an NFL and an NCAA champion. That makes sense to me. But, like, why? I just don't see why guys that finally get back in the college ranks go back the other way. Like, why would you want to go back to pro football? Well, they can fire you 6 games into the season. And now you're stuck going to coach Middle Tennessee State.
Like Spurrier.
South Carolina. You want to go to, that's like being shipped out to Siberia. Like, you don't ever heard from them again. South Carolina is the most irrelevant SEC program in the history of the SEC.
Do you think he got a little scared that, UCLA, Washington, Oregon
I don't think he got
are
scared.
coming in the Big Ten?
I don't think that at all. I just think
scared's not the right word, but you think, whoa, this is going to be harder. I truly think
it's too much work. It's just too much work. Those guys, I mean, that's what goes back. I mean, granted, your program gets to an extent where it runs itself, right, for the most part. Nick Saban wasn't going into every recruit's living room to go get guys. That place was recruiting itself. And your select 5 or 6 that you really want that are on the fence, you send Nick in the helicopter, land in your backyard, shake mom and dad's hand, take a selfie. All right, I've got him, right? And that's kind of where he was getting. But I guess, it has to be the fact that he hates the whole restrictions of what he got pushed through with the suspension and the coach. And then I won, and I'm like, all right, man, I'm out. And then it's like, you know what? I want 3 months off.
There's no time off for college coaches anymore. Between the NIL and the transfer portal, like, it's chaos.
Yeah, because they have to go out and recruit too.
You have to recruit the guys that are already in your locker room. That's the thing that's ever changing. You cannot stop recruiting. You're recruiting 18-year-olds and you're recruiting 25-year-olds that are even in your own locker room.
Yeah, because
you can't lose them
because of the portal. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, that's
never ending.
Yeah, that's
be exhausting.
Maybe that was it. I'll tell you what, you can't blame him for wanting to coach the Chargers. Though.
Of course not.
You have a franchise quarterback. I mean, if a football team, if of all the football teams that fire guys, that would be the team I'd want to coach.
And he's earned that right till he did it for a while. I mean, the Dolphins were high after him. We lost 2 draft picks because we tampered with it. Like it's just, but like that's he's earned that right to pick and choose, and that's a guy. I don't know anything about being an NFL coach, but if I had a choice to, if that was one of the openings, I'd be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be all right with this Herbert guy. I think he's gonna be all right.
Yeah. And listen, they had
now you got a weirdo Harbaugh with a weirdo franchise and a weirdo owner, and there's another team that never seems to get it right. Before we take a break here from Royal Billiards, we do have a rather large baseball trade that just happened. Twins are sending second baseman, middle infielder Jorge Polanco.
Wow.
To the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, poor Polanco.
Oh man.
Poor P. That was one of my favorite guys I had. I had him for 4.5 years.
I always liked him as a player.
He can flat out hit.
Yeah, I was really kind of hoping.
He's a 20 home run guy at second base.
I wanted the Yankees to get him to play third.
They moved him all over the place. He was. Oh,
what's going on? Do the Twinks have a stud coming up at the?
No, not that I know of.
Are they worried about his knee? You think? Because his knee's been a problem the last few years.
Yeah, but I think it's I honestly, and I'd say this with all due respect, since they changed regimes, I don't know what the hell those guys are thinking. Like I don't. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like nothing they do has aligned with anything that any baseball person could ever agree with.
Who do they get for Polanco?
That's what I'm going to look for.
Undetermined. I mean, I just got the Bleacher Report, but no return yet.
Mariners to acquire Jorge Polanco. That's a salary dump.
When you
why?
say
They didn't sign Gray. Did they re-sign Gray? No,
that's a salary dump. Kepler might go too. Oh,
I like Kepler
Max
too.
Kepler.
I always liked him.
Pretty much.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't get it.
He's a good player.
He's a very good player. Very underrated player.
He's real good.
He was probably my most solid guy I had in my minor league managing career with the Twins.
Didn't they moved him to third base, didn't they?
Steady Eddie. Yeah, they kept telling me he couldn't play short. And I was like, well, I don't see anybody else that could play short and hit 280 in the big leagues every year. So I might want to leave him there. But until you have somebody else, you might want to leave him there. And then they put him in AAA and they put him in left field and right field and third base and second base. I was like, and then they called him up and we didn't know. This is crazy. This is Minnesota Twins baseball. They didn't play him at shortstop the entire first half in AAA. They called him back up. Where do you think he played the first 6 games?
You're kidding.
Shortstop.
Why?
Yep. Can't make this shit up.
Like, why?
Can't make it up. Because everybody thinks everybody tries to be smarter than the game without just let players play. Like, let them play.
A bunch of people in the chat are Phillies fans, as you can imagine, both of you.
Yep.
Reese Hoskins no longer going to be with the Phillies. 2-year, $34 million. 2-year, $34 million deal with the Milwaukee Brewers. Home run for Reese Hoskins. Home run for the Brewers.
That's a great deal coming off ACL. That's a great deal for him coming off ACL.
Because, he just didn't fit with Bryce Harper moving to first base. Unfortunately,
Yeah, you couldn't put him in the outfield. I mean, your outfield's bad enough with Schwarber and Castellanos.
That's a shame too, because he was. I think that's a win-win for both teams, though. You got some really good years out of him, and for him to come off an ACL surgery and injury and get a 2-year deal with significant money, good for him. Like that's respectful on everybody's end.
And he's going to play for a good team too.
And he's going to play in a park that the ball flies.
Yeah,
So
and they really, and the Brewers really need him.
yeah, so that's a smart pickup by the Brewers, and I think it's a big loss for the Phillies, but there was no way the team worked with bringing him back.
Nah, you could. Yeah, I mean,
All
where
right.
were you gonna put him? They want
They made the
they want Schwarber to be
organizational
DH,
decision.
right?
Yep.
They want Schwarber to be the DH.
The problem
Nick,
one is that they're making an organizational decision to move Harper to first base for the rest of his career.
well, they don't.
Which I
want
don't
him to
see.
make that
I don't
arm
see
again.
that as a bad move. I don't see that as a bad.
I don't
move.
They
either.
want to make sure he has
I don't
his arm
either.
again.
You want to get the most out you can out of your 13 years you signed him for, and that's one of the best ways to do it. You get him off his feet. He's not diving in the outfield. He's on the dirt. He's not really moving that much. Granted, first base, bad shit can happen, but I think he's handled it well, and he's only going to get better over there. So, let's put it this way. I feel like it's easier to fill the holes of outfielders than it is infielders, especially a corners guys.
That's true.
You can find a left fielder, you can find a Adam Duvall, right, who's turned into a pretty good career, but let's not forget a couple years ago he was sent down after going to an All-Star game, and now he's resurrected his career. So there's guys like that you can search and find.
Eddie Rosario, you could say the same thing about him too.
You get him in the right spot, you catch lightning in a bottle, you turn something into him, and you know what I mean. So like, I just feel like corner outfielders you can find them, and there's a million ways you can go with an outfielder. You can go speed, you can go left-handed hitter, high average, contact, on-base guy. You can go the big bopper, defensive guy. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's a million ways you go. First base is really only one option. Can he hit? I feel like there's more outfielders than there are true first basemen.
All right, let's take a break here from Royal Billiards. We'll be back after this. Talk some Eagles coaching staff shakeup.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
All right, welcome back. There's Royal Billiards. Turn any ordinary room into an extraordinary game room experience. 5-on-5 Bethlehem Pike in Colmar, PA. Tell them HG Radio sent you. Tell them the Sports Sound sent you. Anything you need, pool tables, dartboards, shuffleboards, hot tubs, anything, visit royalbilliards.com. Shakeup continues. The Eagles are bringing in a whole new coaching staff. They're hiring new receivers coaches, new line coaches. But, I mean, the big ones, let's start on defense. Doug, Vic Fangio was your defensive coordinator in Miami last year.
Damn it. Did you have to take him?
Apparently, I don't know what happened. Was he on a 1-year contract? What happened there?
What I heard down here was he wanted to be close to his family. They mutually parted ways, and when I guess the defensive coordinator job for the Eagles last year came available, he had already signed with the Dolphins. So, look, everybody down here is like saying, "Oh, bye, good riddance. You didn't do anything." I'm like, well, when he had let's just say 3/4 of the defense he was supposed to have, for as everybody clamors about the Dolphins' offense, our defense was pretty damn good, and he did a really good job with a lot of moving parts. When we had the defense he signed to be the coordinator for, they were excellent. So, I mean, I really, like I said, the Eagles are, to me, it's a home run hire. It's a home run hire.
I think this is an A+ hire for the Eagles. I do. He's a veteran. He's had pretty much everywhere he's went, he's had a top 10 defense.
Correct.
And there's some down years in his track record, but that's with any coach. And it's not like the cupboard, like he's not taking over Carolina's defense.
Right.
Like I know everyone's mad in Philadelphia and everyone wants wholesale change. You don't need wholesale changes here. You need to tweak this roster. You get a new voice in there. I think Vic Fangio is an A+ hire for this.
I think too, because like we talked about last week about how a veteran kind of coach with a young head coach, like you're bringing in someone with instant credibility that will, I think things will be different. Like your instant credibility, a guy that's got a track record, old school guy for that group to be like, all right, like to put this foot down and help out along with the other stuff. I think there's times when organizations and teams need a young guy, and there's times that an organization needs a veteran guy. And I think your defense at this junction needs a guy with a track record and needs somebody with substance and needs somebody with background. And that, to me, he's the best one out there.
I think this is a way better hire than Brad, your boy, Wink Martindale. I think this is a way better hire than what a Ron Rivera would have been.
I was not enthralled with Wink Martindale. He tried to do something that with the talent that he had was not suited for what he wanted to do. You know, he wants to blitz he wants his linebackers blitzing all the time. It wouldn't have worked out well for the Eagles. Their linebackers aren't the kind of guys that are going to get to the quarterback. You know, that wouldn't work for the Eagles either. There are certain teams it would work for, but not them.
And Rivera, and then I get to the offense, and I'm struggling to be optimistic about this one and Kellen Moore with the Eagles because
I don't get it.
Why they get Cliff Kingsbury?
That's the same thing.
I don't get that either. Like, what did he do? What has he done?
Either way,
Cliff Kingsbury.
What has he done?
Well, he's had a quarterback who was very similar to Hurts. You know, a guy who's a glorified runner.
He had the head coach at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes in college, and he went 8-4 every year. Explain that to me.
I didn't watch the team. I didn't see the team play, so I can't.
But like then he goes to the NFL, and like I don't know. What has he done that's earned the right to be just? You know what I mean? Like Kellen Moore's the same way. Like,
but as a coordinator, is a little different than a head coach, though.
I get that, but still, like, you had Patrick Mahomes in college. You should have put up 80 points a game.
Yeah,
80.
Okay,
I think you're not wrong. Just gave up 80.
You took Kyle Murray with the first pick. That's enough said right there. Like, why would you take a 5'6" quarterback with the number 1 pick?
I mean, that's clear. I mean, I just see a guy in Kellen Moore. Like, look, Dallas scapegoated him and released him and let him go somewhere else, and they got better. This was the best season I've seen the Cowboys have, even though they, shit all over themselves in the playoffs per usual. But that was a really good football team in Dallas. That was by far Dak's best year after they got rid of Kellen Moore. And then to compound it, he goes out to San Diego with a quarterback in Justin Herbert that's better than Dak Prescott and better than Jalen Hurts. And Justin Herbert got worse. The Chargers got worse. They fell flat on their face. You want to blame that on Brandon Staley? Like, okay.
Yeah,
but Brandon Staley runs the
I don't like
Brandon
Staley was terrible.
And neither do I, and he's flawed. But Brandon Staley was in charge of the defense. Kellen Moore was in charge of the offense. Like, I don't know. You have a guy.
It's the same thing.
Because you're trying to fit the square. You're trying to fit the square peg in the round hole. You're going to do the same thing you did last year with Jalen. That didn't work. You're going to make him drop back 35, 40 times. Do these extravagant 3-4 wide receiver progressions. That's not his game. And all the Eagles fans out there that wanted us to run the ball more, the Eagles to run the ball more, that's not going to happen with Kellen Moore.
It ain't happening now.
Definitely ain't happening now. So, like, I don't know. He does great things with slot receivers and receivers like Devontae Smith, who I think is a stud and should be extended this offseason. So, like, maybe better days. I mean, he's going to have two great wide receivers.
Yet, though, do you?
He had two really, really, really good running backs in Dallas, and still didn't do anything.
He had Eckler last year. I know Eckler, I think he sprained his ankle and missed some time, but I mean, Eckler's a dynamic player. Like, he didn't use him. He tried to throw the ball up to.
They also lost their top receiver last year.
Yeah, too. I mean, like I give him a mulligan.
That was like the last two games.
Herbert was banged up, I think, from the start. I don't buy that he was right all year.
Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts has been banged up each of the last two seasons. So that's probably not going to be any different here.
Not to the same.
What are you going to do to your TV when the first three plays he throws a slot receiver screen next year? Are you going to break your TV?
No, I'm over that. I'm 34 now. I'm 34 now, Doug. I'm not 24 anymore, and I'm not 14. The 14-year-old Rob would have just screamed like a little child that he was and still is at 34. The 24-year-old Rob would have had a nice buzz on and might have broken some stuff. And 34-year-old Rob is kind of just like once they went down 32-9 in the Tampa game, like, I'm like, okay, like, season's over, that's it. You turn it off and you go to bed. Maybe you vent for like a half hour maybe. But like, I can't control what these idiots do on TV. I can't control who they pick in the draft. They should listen to me. Tell everyone CJ Stroud and Justin Fields. Like, I mean, I just don't know. I'm very skeptical of this Kellen Moore signing. I really do. And a lot of people are really excited about it. And good for you. I hope it works out. The one narrative I keep saying is, like, these teams that need coordinators, like, you should hire like a lesser caliber coach so they don't get poached as a head coach next season. I think that's silly nonsense.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Okay, so I'm not crazy.
Because you have to understand, every one of these guys have disciples, right? They have, like, Kellen Moore has little guys underneath him, not little guys, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the guys behind him that he brings on his staff that can do pretty much the same thing. They just never call plays. So, like, wanting someone to do mediocre, like, that's like the NFL motto, right? They don't want to, like, back in the day before they had guaranteed contracts, it was like, the NFL, you couldn't do too good because you cost too much, and if you did too bad, you got released. So they wanted everybody to be average. Like, that's not the case anymore. Like, you hope that guys start plucking your staff. That means you had a really good year. You had a
if Kellen Moore at this time next year, if Kellen Moore is hired by whatever, the Vikings or whoever's looking for a coach next year, that means the Eagles did really, really good. Maybe the Giants. That means the Eagles had a really, really good year. That's
correct.
Good. I'll worry about next year. So
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah,
I don't think that's happening.
No, I'm. This offseason is going to be very interesting in Philadelphia.
Eric Bieniemy is still not a head coach.
I don't understand.
He's still not a head coach.
There's got to be something. Doesn't there have to be something that doesn't meet the eye with that now, though?
Like, I hate to say this, but I don't want to bring it up, but it's like okay, like I we're at a day and age now where, like, race shouldn't be involved in it one way or the other, but something, he must interview really poorly. Something has to be, because there's a lot of guys that have been hired and already fired that he's well more overqualified for. Right? I mean, like, the guy that took over for the Bengals, if that guy walked down the street in a Best Buy shirt, you'd ask him, like, what size, where are the 55-inch TV screens, right? Like, that's just the reality of it. Like, that's what he looked like. Like, and I'm not, like, those guys are behind the scenes, but Eric Bieniemy's been, like, you know it, you watch it. Like, the guys that get the most TV time come January are usually the hot commodity coordinator. He's been in the thick of things for the last 6 to 8 years. Behind Andy, but whether his offense is any good or not, Andy Reid let him call plays. What does that tell you? Like, Andy Reid's one of the greatest offensive coaches in the history of the NFL, and you allowed him to be the offensive coordinator. You hired him to be the offensive coordinator. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Remember one thing, though, Doug. Andy Reid also has a headset, and if he doesn't like what's being called, he can interrupt and say, run it. Or
of course, I get that. Of course. But they also sit in the same room and devise a game plan every week to work.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. That Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is a hell of a lot easier when you look out and you have Tyreek Hill, freaking Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. It's a lot easier when you have those guys. I get it. But you still got to make the calls, and you still got to – a lot of guys get hired on that stuff because of who they have. The guy has earned the right to be a head coach somewhere, and he should be by now. From all the stuff, from the guys that have gotten the chance. I mean, Joe Philbin was a damn head coach.
That guy's stuck.
I mean, like, the Dolphins hired a ball boy, for God's sakes. Like,
oh boy.
Rich
Coach got to coach twice.
Yeah, he got a job with the Jets.
Yes.
So the Carolina Panthers.
Hey, Rich,
David
I left it all in the field, Kotite.
It was such a bomb.
We always gave 100%. Those are his news conferences every week.
Like, look at some of these guys that got looks over Bieniemy. David Canales, whoever that is.
Right.
He looks like he was the offensive coordinator for Tampa this year. I mean, one good year as a coordinator, you get a job over Bieniemy. Antonio Pierce is going to take
too.
Antonio Pierce is going to take over in Vegas. I love that for Antonio Pierce.
I was glad to hear that.
Very, 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 very happy to see that.
And then Harbaugh, we talked. Harbaugh goes to the Chargers. We talked about that. The Falcons hire Raheem Morris.
Which I'm okay with that. I think he deserves another shot. I like him.
You notice nobody took Belichick yet, though.
Where's, like, I just had it at my tongue. Where is, how come Vrabel hasn't gotten it? Where's Vrabel at?
Vrabel is nowhere because the
Correct.
Patriots Vrabel went, the Patriots went Gerard Mayo, which apparently they had set up for years in advance. And the Titans they get rid of Mike Vrabel and they hire a guy named Brian Callahan, who was the offensive coordinator.
Offensive guy. Yeah.
Offensive guy in Cincinnati. So the Seahawks still need to pick a coach, which I think Vrabel's perfect for there.
I don't see Vrabel. Then again, he was in Tennessee, which isn't like abstractville, but like, I don't know. Vrabel, I can't believe the Patriots didn't take Vrabel.
That was strange.
If there's one guy that can fill in Belichick's shoes and not give a shit who he's replacing, it's Vrabel.
I'll tell you what. If Nick got fired, that I would suggest for the Eagles to get him because I would love.
He
would be a good fit there. He'd be a good fit anywhere, but especially with the Eagles because he does like to run the ball, Rob.
And he's tough. Like, to me, he's like that's the guy I want leading my group. Dip in, no
nonsense,
no F's given on Monday Night Football. Just these teams are good. These teams are tough. Like, they're not talented, but they're tough. And they had a couple runs there where they were damn close to going to the Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback.
They were. Came a little bit short. So Seattle needs a coach and Washington needs a coach. Maybe Bieniemy.
Like, okay, there you go. Of course,
in Washington,
to me, that would be the one Bieniemy gets, right? Like the land of misfit toys. He finally gets the Redskins job, the Commanders job. Like, wow, thanks guys, appreciate it. Like, go get him,
But at least they don't have a clown owner anymore.
Gosh almighty, that place.
No, No, Brad, they still do because the guy who owns the Sixers now owns the Commanders as well, and he's a clown.
Which is like
he's not as big
Dan
a clown.
Snyder?
No, not as worse as Dan.
Yeah,
Snyder,
I was going to say Dan.
Let's not make it look like
Yeah, I mean, like, Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder
Joshua
is
Harris
like
is Albert Einstein here because he's not.
Dan Snyder was bozo compared to him.
Well, Joshua Harris.
We're not comparing bozo and Ronald McDonald now, are we?
Something like that. That sounds like something. But Joshua Harris, he doesn't care if his teams win or lose. He just wants to keep raking in that money. He owns the Devils. He owns the Sixers. He owns the Commanders. I think he owns a soccer team overseas. Like, he doesn't.
Well, if you own the Sixers, you don't care about winning. Let's put it that way with the team they throw out there every year.
Nope.
Sorry.
Nope.
No disrespect.
No, it's true. Yeah, and everyone's
By the way,
starting
Rob,
to get excited.
Is it rubbing you guys the wrong way that the Clippers right now may be the best team in the league?
No.
With Harden, I mean,
because you know what James Harden is going to do in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He's going to be sitting next to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
he's going to be the bench with Dak Prescott. He's going to be at the strip club with Lamar and Dak.
Paul Pierce in his wheelchair because he crapped his pants and blamed his shoulder, and then want to walk off the court.
I mean,
you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot he.
Oh, my shoulder! I'm in a wheelchair. No, you just shit yourself, sir. You don't want to walk off the floor.
Yeah.
But like, if the Clippers have those guys healthy, Kawhi and Paul George, and Harden like pretends to care, it's whatever.
But that's a
Well, they could win with him as the
you brought back Pettit, Posada, Cheater, and Mo, they might have one more run in them too at 50.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
Like we've been saying that for years, though. Like Kawhi and Paul George, right? How long?
Yeah.
That was my son's favorite player was Paul George forever. I'm like, is he ever gonna get? And don't get me wrong, he had a couple of injuries that were really, really timed horribly. They weren't his fault. They were just kind of freakish stuff. But damn, like I feel like they put that team together 12 years ago, didn't they? They put that team together like a decade ago. And they've been there.
How old is he now? He's got to be in his mid-30s now.
He
right?
has to be mid-30s.
That's old for an NBA player.
Very old.
How about the Milwaukee Bucks, Doug? They are what? They were 30-13.
And you fired
the heave. They gave their coach the heave ho, and brought in Doc Rivers.
Right.
Why would they do that?
I'm not a Bucks fan. Obviously, I don't follow them, but I'm not a hater of Doc Rivers. I watched his games as a player. He was in that generation growing up, influenced me, whatever. And I respect him as a coach, but it's like, what makes you think that what he's going to bring in is going to be any better than the guy you just let go? Unless there was some massive internal problem that
maybe he and Giannis were getting along.
But it's like that's a really awkward spot to come into. It's like, hang on, we're 30-13, and
yeah, you won a championship a couple of years ago.
Like we walk in, like you're Doc Rivers, like, okay, guys, like what's the problem? Like, here's the ball. Like, I don't get it.
They won a championship with Mike Budenholzer, and they fired him too.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, because he
I
wasn't.
don't know what they're doing.
I just think you don't know today's athlete. You just don't know. It's like are the players that soft? Like, how is that? How does that work? Do you are they practicing too much? Is it too hard? Something didn't agree with, the best players. Well, that got to get booted out.
Well, they win. I mean, I haven't really dove in on the NBA yet. Now that football is. We got one game left. We can dive into the winter sports a little more with hockey and basketball. But the Bucks win every game like 150-145. They play no defense, so maybe that had something to do with it. Because Doc is going to
tighten the screws a little bit.
At least preach defense. Whether those guys listen or not,
he's going to ask them to defend. Whether they will or not is obviously.
But like you brought in a guy who is. Like notoriously failed with talented rosters, right?
Yeah,
you're
think
correct.
of the teams he's had that haven't gone to the finals. That's like the who's who of the NBA for a decade. That's what blew me off. I was like, gosh, the first thing I thought of was like, well, the Heat have a legit shot again. Because if we have to go through Milwaukee, I'm not really worried about it.
No, you just got to get to Game 7, and Doc's going to lose.
Correct.
See it the whole time, his whole career, except for the one time he had the original Dream Team in Boston, and they won.
Right.
Yeah, but anybody could have won with that team.
Yeah, I mean, like
that team was so damn good; it was ridiculous.
I don't think Paul Pierce and those guys and Ray Allen needed a lot of coaching to push them through. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not saying they didn't, but like, hang on, you got the best shooting guard in the history of the NBA, arguably. Paul Pierce was winding down, and you got Kevin Garnett, who was probably the most athletic big man of his generation. Like, with some pretty good.
He was right in his prime at that point.
Some pretty good complementary players too. Really good complementary players too.
They had Rondo. They had Kendrick Perkins. They had Glenn Big Baby Davis out of LSU.
Yep.
I mean, they had a lot of. They were 8-9 deep of guys.
And they had no one from the West.
Head off.
The West was garbage. Like Kobe got to the finals that year. The Lakers did, but they were like they weren't very good. I think they beat the Lakers
3 years in a row. They beat didn't they do 3 years in a row? Lakers Celtics.
That was 2. 2 out of 3, I thought, because Kobe won once of that group.
Yeah.
But
he won the second. Kobe won the second time.
But I felt like the first time he went without Shaq, they weren't very good. Like they were good, but they weren't like.
They were a lot better when they won the championship.
It was 3 in a row.
Significantly better.
They got Powell that year, right?
It was 2008, 2009, and 2010.
That was the year they got Gasol that year, right?
No, 2008 Boston beat the Lakers.
Right. That was
2009 the Lakers beat the Magic in 2009. So there was 2 of them, but they were split up.
Okay.
And then they played again, 2000, didn't they? And the Lakers beat the Celtics.
In 2010. So the Lakers went back-to-back over Orlando and Boston in 2009 and 2010. Boston won over the Lakers in 2008.
That's right.
And then it's just all LeBron until a few years ago. A lot of losers, but a lot of LeBron.
What's going on with the Heat these days, Doug?
I haven't quite followed it that much. I've been kind of bogged down with homework, but I was just looking at it. They got it. I'm really impressed with they got a young rookie guy that I like. I always try to find, like, if you look at the Heat roster every year, you look and you see like Jimmy Butler, and then all of a sudden you look at the other guys, and you're like, okay, like which one of these guys is going to blow you away? And it just seems like every year they just develop these guys. I really thought we'd see a decline this year. They let go of so many guys that made that run last year because of money wise. But I mean, they're doing what they normally do. They stay in the mix. They continue to kind of just they're just good, and they get better as the season goes on. I'm trying to remember his name. It was Jacquez Jr.
Jacquez Jr. from UCLA. Yeah, good player. They brought in Terry Rozier. He's doing great. Yeah, that makes up because you lost Strus. He got paid. You lost someone else too, didn't
Anthony.
You?
I thought it was Anthony. Wasn't it Anthony we lost? We lost 2 guys that were like undrafted free agents, and they got paid, so I was really happy for them. But like,
Can't keep everybody though.
Yeah, I get it. And like I said, like that's how we survive. That's how they've always survived. They develop their guys, and they get them good. They pay them, and like the Duncan Robinson one, I'm still scratching my head about. Like they gave him almost 95 million, and he hasn't done much. That's why Strus came aboard, because Duncan Robinson got that contract and like fell off the planet. He's starting to come back a little bit, but they had to find a replacement for him. And Kevin Love's still doing his thing. I swear to God, he's 50. But like,
they don't. Do they still have Tyler Hero?
Yes.
Okay.
He's been healthy. He's been healthy most 27 games, which is a lot for him to stay this healthy. They keep riding on him like he's gonna. They hang on to him. They love him. Hopefully this is his breakout year. He stays healthy the whole year. But I would feel like this is Pat Riley waiting in the weeds to pull off some stunner come the All-Star break, come the trade deadline.
Like Anthony Davis, something like that.
He's been quiet too long. Like when they didn't get the guy from Portland, like I was like, okay, when they didn't get, I thought, okay, like that was our guy they wanted, and now they've been talking about it for 2 or 3 years. Kyle Lowry's probably going to be dumped somewhere because I don't think I don't think Pat Riley's real happy with it.
I know all the Sixers fans want him, and I just don't. I don't see how Kyle Lowry at his age puts you over the top.
He's a lesser Harden. He's older and he's out of shape, and it's a big number on the salary cap. It's a big number, and it's not the player. I get it. It's the salary that comes with it, and that's a shame that you have to say that, but it's true. Like you get him for even $15, $18 million, it's doable. But when he's sucking down 35, 38 million, it's like, dude, you got to give me more than that. Especially
I've heard a lot of noise about the Knicks being after DeMar DeRozan. Does he? How much does he? I mean, can he actually make them a team that could get out of the second round and maybe into the conference finals?
I don't think so.
Can he help with them? Why would you?
I think the Knicks have. The Knicks have done well. The Knicks are fun. The Knicks are good.
The Knicks are dangerous. Brunson's legit.
Yeah, he is
very
legit. He's the best player they've had in a long
tough,
time.
And he'll match up with, like, he went after Jimmy Butler last year. That series they were going at it. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, the Knicks just weren't ready to win to
right,
beat
but
Miami
it wasn't
year.
him. He went shot for shot with them for 4 or 5 games. It was like, damn, like this kid's good. I was impressed.
I had just checked. They're buried in Charlotte, and they don't have. They did get a Hartenstein back, so at least they got their center back. But they lost Randall for a while.
10-35. Right?
I know they're bad. But they did. Listen, right now they're playing without Randall, and they're playing without what's his name, OG Aganabi. So there's something to be said about that. To still, I mean, I was beside myself when I saw that he had separated his shoulder. Dislocated it. But now they're saying it's a dislocation, not a separation, and he doesn't have to have surgery, so he could be back in a couple of weeks. But boy, they lose him, they're screwed. They cannot compete against the top teams without him.
Oh, we're struggling.
Of our three basketball teams on this panel, the Sixers, the Knicks, and the Heat, I think the Knicks have the best shot to go to a conference final.
We're a couple people short. Like we're getting. I think we lost 6 in a row. We're kind of.
We got to get another shooter. One more shooter. Give us one more really good shooter who can be the 2 guard and let DiVincenzo come in off the bench and then you've got your quickly replacement. That's what they need.
One thing I don't doubt Spoelstra. It's like.
That guy gets he's so good.
Doug, I would probably put the Sixers last. On the list.
If they just, it's the only team, it's the only team I've ever followed that, like, if they're the 8 seed, I feel like they have a legit shot at going to the finals.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to listen. Of all the teams, I wouldn't. Aside from the Celtics, because I don't count them, they're really, really good. But I mean, if all the teams, the one team I wouldn't want it. The 2 teams I wouldn't want to play are the Celtics and the Heat. If they could somehow avoid those teams, I'd feel a lot better about their chances.
This staff, they just, my goodness gracious, like I said, they even get to the finals last year with the group he had. Like that's just like
the fact that they beat Boston in a Game 7 on the road.
I know they beat.
That made me feel so much better after the Knicks lost to them. I was like, damn, the Celtics freaking beat the Celtics for crying out loud. What can you possibly can't criticize the Knicks that they if they beat the Celtics too.
And they were up 3-1 too. Like it could have been on 5. Like that's the scary part. Like there's something to be said about coaching.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe that's why the Dolphins hired what's his face, because Spoelstra was the video guy. So we just went from a video guy to a ball boy and think we're gonna get the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it was really bad. You have to admit, though, it was really bad luck that A, they drew the Chiefs, and B, it was below 0. I mean, that's a tough combination for them. I mean,
it didn't matter who we played. We could play them on the equator and it'd be 120 degrees. We just no. It's like you just know. It's like, oh, we got in. Okay, like we're gonna beat 31.
Well, aside from health, what's going to change the Miami Dolphins' luck in the playoffs, and also against like teams like the Buffalo Bills and and the Chiefs and teams that seem to beat them pretty regularly.
It's a quarterback league. They need a quarterback.
You really don't like Tua.
You need a difference maker. He's not a difference maker.
Yeah, he's an average he's not bad, but he's an average quarterback.
It's just not going to work. It's just not because like his offensive weapons are not going to get better than what he has right now.
Oh, it's impossible. That would be literally impossible.
It's impossible.
How could you do better than Waddle and Tyreek Hill?
And that's what I get.
And then Mostert as your running back. I mean, you can't get better than that.
I respect teams that make moves when they get to the playoffs and don't succeed. Like that's the difference. Prime example. Look what the Eagles did. They got to the playoffs, and they kind of, you can say what they want. They backed in, whatever you want to say. They didn't live up to the expectations from the year before they went to the Super Bowl. What did they do? They fired both coordinators. The Dolphins have it's the same song and dance for 30 years. They're praising the coaching staff. When it's like, oh,
That's
we'll just
crazy.
get them next year. Like, no, we're not. We're going to be in the same predicament we were again this year. Exact. Because you can say what you want. Oh, we got to have that home game. We had a home game. It just was week 17 or week 18. This the last week of the season, and Buffalo came down and beat us. So, like, it's the same stuff. We scored 7 points in the second half of that game. And we had 42 total yards in the second half going into the last drive. It's like it's the same stuff. That team can't get any more talented on offense outside of the quarterback spot.
Well, the offensive line, right? They hurt a lot.
They were bad, but really, okay, yeah. Well, you're right. We had injuries on the offensive line, but I don't believe in injuries towards the end of the year. Every football team is banged up. Some
That's
more
true.
than others. But, like, our defense got decimated more by injury than the offense.
But your defense wasn't that bad against Buffalo. And for that matter,
Correct.
They didn't play badly against Kansas City either. They just couldn't score.
We held Josh Allen to 21 points at home. Like, they put almost 60 on us the second week of the season in Buffalo. If you're an offensive team and your defense limits the other team in a game that's a must-win to 2 touchdowns. Don't forget, one was a punt return for a touchdown, so they didn't even get in the end zone.
And also don't forget that on the last play of the first half, Buffalo was stopped on the inch line because Allen, for some reason, threw a pass to a guy that was on the 2-yard line instead of throwing the ball in the end zone.
But it's like all I kept hearing is like, oh, we have this motion stuff at home, and they did. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, if you can't win games like that, then it's like we can't find another. They don't have another Tyreek Hill to go along with Tyreek Hill.
There's only one. There's only one of
those guys.
There's only one in the history of mankind.
Right.
Yeah.
He's one of one in the history of the NFL. And it's the fact that he didn't get his spleen ruptured like for a month during the season from like jumping up and catching balls. It's like it's mind blowing. And we had injuries in the offensive line, but like again, if you put all your money into Tyreek Hill and your left tackle and a couple receivers, you're not going to have a lot of money left for your guards and your right tackle and the defense and everything. It's like something's got to give, and that's my point. Like
what about What about a guy like Cousins? Do you think he would help you guys?
I always look at it this way. If you're going to have to pay Tua $40+ million a year, you're going to lose two guys that helped him get that $40 million, right? Where, like, when you start to slow the offense down because you don't have, like, the elite track stars on the outside, now what? And there's other guys. I always say this. If you took Tua and put him on any offense, how many teams would Tua start for? And how many guys would put up the same numbers or better if they had the Dolphins offense?
Probably, it's a good point.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, what other team is better if Tua starts for them? I don't see one.
My team.
Okay, but if you have
the Commanders,
you have
the
normal
Commanders.
receivers. You don't have three deers on the outside. So what is he?
Yeah, that's true.
People are like, we're not giving him time. Well, hell, we got the ball out in 0.8 seconds. We don't really need an offensive line. If they just laid down, he should be able to get the ball out. And that's what I don't get. Like, you give somebody who can, like, make something happen outside of the first read. Like, I sit there and think, man, if you put Lamar Jackson in this offense, I know it's the salary cap, but, like, just for, like, if you're playing fantasy land, like, could you imagine the first option's gone and all of a sudden you got to worry about this dude taking off 50 yards on the field? Or Josh Allen? Like, you think about how many quarterbacks the Dolphins could plug into this offense.
They had I think if they had Josh Allen, they'd never lose a game.
Over. Yeah.
They
had Brock Purdy.
I mean, you think about it, he could throw the damn ball 80 yards. How Tyreek Hill would have 30 touchdowns probably.
That's legit. Like, Tua could probably do it.
How could you stop him? That guy could throw the ball 70, 80 yards.
That's just it's not that I'm a Tua hater. I'm just not gonna sit here after 20+ years of mediocrity, like, get excited over a lot of yards, because at the end of the day, it's still the same shit we've watched for the last 25 years. We're not relevant. As much as the media now tries to hype up us being relevant, it just doesn't happen. Like, we're the kings of September and October. And then come January, we're nowhere to be found. And I'm tired. It drives me crazy. I hate being the fan of a finesse football team. I can't stand it.
It is fun when your team's a bully. All right. We're out of here. Rivals coming up next. Closing thoughts, anyone? Brad will be on the Hockey Happy Hour tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Talking some Flyers and some NHL big picture stuff. Flyers off till February 4th.
7th, I think.
7th?
Maybe I think it's the 7th.
That's a long time.
Is it the All-Star game?
The All-Star game's this coming weekend. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
They have their break. The Rangers have their break. So every team has their break except Ottawa, and it seems like Ottawa and Nashville and a couple other teams. But most teams have a break right now.
All right.
They've lost 5 in a row, so they need the All-Star break right now.
A little bit of a skid for the Fly guys. Hopefully they can get it back together. So anyway, check out Brad on the Hockey Happy Hour tomorrow. We'll be back with you next week, same time, same place, previewing Super Bowl 58 from Las Vegas. Until then, peace out, everybody.
Gentlemen.